What is up, everybody? So we're starting a new video. This one's going to be about valve lapping, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how I'm going to lap these valves in. I just got them back from being ground. Just the exhaust valves ground. Hopefully they do a good job sealing. We'll see. After I lap them all in, we'll evaluate how well they're going to seal, and hopefully we don't burn a valve after we're all said and done. So here we got our cylinder head. I've got the valve lapping compound, and I bought a couple of these suction cup valve lap tools here. So I've already done 3 of the valves in the number 4 cylinder here, but we're going to do that one last intake valve, and I'm going to walk you guys through the process. But basically I'm going to put a little compound in the valve, suction cup it, grab it from the back, and just grind it into the seat there. And then we're going to take a look at the valve itself, and we're going to see where that grinding line is and exactly where it is on the valve, and that'll tell us how well the valve's going to seat. So you can see right here I've got the next valve that I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and stick this intake valve. Try to get it in the center. That's not really too centered. I think I'm going to fix that. It's good to be right in the center. And so I'm going to take this valve, and I kind of spilled compound all over the place here, so I'm just going to put it on my finger and just, that's probably too much, but it's fine. Not going to hurt anything. So what I'm going to do is put it up into the valve guide there, and we're going to work it up in here. And once we get it there, I'm going to grab it from the back here, and I'm going to help spin it, because it's going to be kind of grindy at first. And it's going to be grindy like this for a little while. You just want to go back and forth with it, and then maybe spin it around 180 and back and forth some more. All the while I'm pulling from the back to really get it into the seat there and grinding it good. And you see it's getting a bit easier even though I'm pushing harder. So, this valve is pretty well lapped. Yeah, so sometimes it'll grind a little more, and I'll just grind it down again until it's nice and smooth. I think that's about enough for this one. That should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out, pull off my suction cup, and clean this valve off. Just get it all nice and clean so I can see exactly what I'm looking for here on the valve itself. So now, looking at the valve, what you want to look for, it's going to be hard for me to show you in the camera here, but I'll have to get it in a better light. But you want to see shiny on both ends of the seat. So shiny on this side and shiny on the end too. So I'll try to get this in a better light so you can see more of what I'm talking about. So this lighting should be a bit better. So you can see the shiny part on this edge here, and then if you look in the right light you can see there's shiny on just the very outside tip of the valve out here. And you want to have some shiny on the edge here. If you don't, you run the risk of burning a valve, which you'd have a misfire. It means your valve's not sealing. But you can see we have shiny on both sides. And the exhaust valves are a bit closer than this, which kind of worries me a little bit, just because I'm worried that the valve might burn just because it's so close to the edge. This is a really good sealing valve here. This is going to look really good, and it's going to seal really well. Shouldn't burn at all. The intake valves weren't ground, but the exhaust valves were pitted, so I had them ground. So I do hope that the exhaust valves don't burn, but we're going to see. I'm going to go ahead and lap an exhaust valve, and then I'll show you guys exactly what the exhaust valves look like and why it's not as ideal. So this valve right here is one that I lapped earlier. It's an exhaust valve, and you can see there's really barely any shiny on the tip of the valve there, which is a bit concerning. Right on the tip here, you can see there's no shiny. So that means it's sealing all the way down to that point. So I do hope that we are not going to burn a valve. I don't know. You can see a little bit of shiny on the end, but that's pretty thin. So we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna put the car back together, and it's gonna be what it is. We'll see if we burn a valve like this. I really hope not, but sometimes you just gotta do it. Some time has passed and I finished all of the valves. I have them all lapped in. They all look decent for the most part. I'm hoping that we're going to have some success with these valves. Hopefully they hold up. So right here we have a couple of valve stem seals. And these guys just prevent the oil from getting out of the top of the head here and leaking down the valve stems into the combustion area, so you don't burn oil. These may or may not have leaked, but it's a high mileage motor, so I'm going to go ahead and change them. Now this is the exhaust side, you can see, because there's a black band around our little seal there. On the intake side, which I'll show you later, has an actual silver band. These ones that are on there are sort of like oil soaked, but you might be able to tell that the band is silver, and on the exhaust side they're black. So that right there is with one removed. And that little retainer there is floating, so once the seal's off, you can take that little lower spring retainer off, clean underneath it and stuff like that, and then I've put it back on. And so now I'm going to go ahead and press one of these seals on there. And the way I've been pressing it on is just by using, I think it's a 10mm socket. You got to see which one fits best for you, which one fits flat around the sealing area, but not over the whole thing. And then you can just push it down, and typically it seats all the way. Sometimes you may need to tap it with a hammer, just tap on the socket just very lightly to get it to seat all the way. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys me taking one off, which is a pretty difficult task. I've been trying to develop a method here, but it's just kind of difficult for me because pliers don't seem to work. I've seen many people online use pliers, but I can't seem to get that to work. They always slip off. So I've just been using the prying method, and if you work it back and forth, you can get it to come off. So I'll show you guys that now. So my method for putting the actual seal on so far has just been to just put it on, and we have one with a black band because we're working on the exhaust side. You just kind of give it the initial push and it'll kind of just sit down a little bit, and then I take my 10mm socket and I just give this thing a push, make sure I'm nice and square, and it'll just come all the way down, and it doesn't really snap into place, but it will sit into place. And you can get it pushed down pretty good, and you're going to see that it is all the way down. I'm doing this one at a time so I can actually see, based on the other seals here, how it compares. And I'm going to show you guys a close-up of it seating. But yeah, you just want to make sure that these are all the way down. If you have any doubt, put this on here and give it a tap with a hammer. But yeah, I like the way that sits there. It looks like the other ones that are still on the car, and yeah, I'm content with that. So yeah, I don't think we got any more out of it. I think that seated pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other one and then the rest of them. So here's that close-up that I was talking about. So we just get it on initially, get it seated, put our socket on. Just push it on there. So you should be able to see at the bottom that kind of gap that you have there, similar to the other gap over here. And if I pan here, you should be able to see the gap on that one over there. Looks about the same. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put on the rest of the exhaust seals, and then I still have 8 intake seals to do. So I'm like almost done with the intake seals here. I just got these 2 left here. I've done all 6 of these. And I just wanted to take the time to show, like, you can see the size of that hole there in this seal, and then compared to the size of this hole, this is obviously an old seal. That's going to be a lot tighter around the valve stem. So that's pretty cool. Like, that's definitely worn out looking. I just noticed that, so that's pretty interesting. These intake seals, the prying method does not work. So I found the best way to do it is just with vice grips, and you just got to be really patient. You just got to grab the tip and wiggle it back and forth a little bit, and once you get it to wiggle, you can like spin it a little bit and then wiggle it again from a different area and just keep moving around it. Just try not to crimp it onto the valve guide, because you know, then you gotta uncrimp it. It's sort of a pain. I try to take my time. I'm not going to show you that just because I'll be fiddling with it for a while, but I take my time with each one of them, try to get them off without damaging the valve guide. But yeah, this is difficult. You just got to be patient with it. It's tough. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't think so. I don't really see any other ways to do it. I think it's just really hard. So yeah, best of luck if you guys are doing this. So I finished up all this valve stem seals, and now I decided to move on to this rocker assembly here, which you can see right here there was an O-ring, and this is the spark plug tube. So if you change your spark plug seals up top in the valve cover, and it still leaks oil into the spark plug tubes, probably these O-rings here. So you have to take the whole rocker arm assembly off to get to these O-rings. But you can see this O-ring right here that I took out of there. It's no longer an O-ring. It's it's like plastic. So I have a new set of 4 O-rings here. I'm gonna go find those wherever they are and put them in. So I've got my new O-ring here. I'm just going to press it into place here, and fits in there pretty good. And hopefully that guy right there seals a lot better than the one we had in there, because that one was pretty messed up. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these. These are really easy. They just pull right out, and your new guy just goes right in. So really simple job. Once again, make sure not to let all these bolts fall out. These bolts are fine, but some of these bolts have spring tension on them. And if you let those out, then the whole rocker arm assembly will go and shoot out on you, because it's all spring loaded. So I don't remember which bolts it was, but yeah, don't let them fall out, because you'll lose this whole thing. But yeah, so I got 2 put in, just 2 more to do, and I'll be all set. So the next step in the process is we're going to put this valve into its seat and into the new seal. So what I want to do here is lube up our valve stem. This is just some engine assembly lubricant right here. So I'm just going to put some on the valve stem, make sure it's sufficiently worked in just all around. This is really sticky stuff. It'll make sure that when you have your first start, it's not dry. So I'm going to reach around here, just try to get a little bit in the seal too, best I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and take our valve stem, gently put it in here. When I get to that seal, I'm going to feel it, and it comes through nice and tight, and there we go. There's our first valve installed. So I'm just going to go through and slap all these valves in there, and then we can proceed to throw in the actual valve springs on. I decided actually that I'm going to do them one by one, just so that they don't fall out, even though I don't think that they will, since the valve stem seals are nice and tight now. But I moved it over here so it's easier for me to get to with my tool, but I'm going to take my valve spring here, and I have my retainer on top, and you want to make sure that you put the end with the looser coils on top where your top retainer is here, and the tighter coils towards the bottom spring retainer. That's just the way the spring goes, because it's tighter at the bottom here. Yeah, what else? Oh, so the keepers are over here, so I'll show you guys that. It's basically the same as the removal process, but it's just in reverse. So we just got to line up the keepers and then take our valve spring compressor off. We should be all set. So I'm going to just get a little bit of this engine assembly lubricant on here and just work that all in. Make sure it's nice and lubricated, and then I'm going to go ahead and set it on there. And then I'm going to grab our valve spring compressor, and I'm going to go ahead and... So I'm going to try to give you a top view, because I think the more important part is what's going on with the keepers up here. So I'm going to do the same thing to this one that I did to the last one. Just get some engine assembly lube, all over the place, and some on the valve stem here, and then a little bit on our seal. I'm just going to focus on the exhaust side just because I don't have to keep flipping it every time. So this next guy's going in. Nice and gentle up through our seal. And that bottoms out. So then we're taking our valve spring, and I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. A little dusty. And we'll get some engine assembly lube on here. I was wearing gloves, but putting the keepers on is almost impossible with gloves on, so I decided against them. So I'm going to show you guys what I did. I had to adjust my tool quite a bit to get it perfect, but I may have to adjust it for every single one because they're all a little bit different. But I'm going to try to get the tool seated on the valve and on our spring. Obviously I gotta pull the spring back so that it's gonna go onto our valve stem. Okay. It looks like I got it clamped. So I'm going to grab a couple of keepers, and the way these guys go is the wide part goes towards the top and they just fall down, and there's a little ridge where they sit, and oops, that one's kind of falling in. Super difficult to do if you have big hands. See if I can pull this one back out. Yeah, okay, so I got them both sort of on there, and so now I'm just going to slowly loosen our valve spring compressor, and they should stay in place. And there we go. Stayed in place there. Take our tool off, and you can see right here we got our spring is fully installed with the open coils up at the top, small coils at the bottom, and yeah, looks good. Everything's all nice and oiled up with the assembly lube, and yeah, we're ready to move on to the next one. So I figured this was a good shot here to show you of the actual keeper on the valve itself. You can see the two keepers. They come around the stem like that, and that's kind of what you want it to look like, about that far down before you actually release the spring tension on it. So hopefully that's bright enough and you can see it. But yeah, that's what you want it to look like. And yeah, I'm just going to go through and do the rest of these. So I finished up last night. I didn't do much more work on the car after I filmed that last clip. I just went and did most of the valve springs. There's still a couple of valve springs that I have left to do. One of them was really giving me a problem, so I just decided to go to bed. But yeah, I'm going to finish those up this morning, and I think that's going to be it for this video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed, and definitely stay tuned for what we have to come. I mean, I have a lot of work left to do on the car. I'm going to try to knock out a good portion of that today, and I'll try to film as much as I can. But this thing is almost all the way back together. I'm pretty stoked. Just have a few more to do. That's the one that was giving me a problem right there, but I'll get it handled somehow. Sometimes you just gotta develop a new method. But yeah, car's coming together. I gotta put that water pipe in. I got all the new O-rings and gaskets for everything. So yeah, should be all set pretty soon.